Good morning and thank you. This is World Combat Sports here. I'd like to thank all the boxing fans who are tuning in. I have the honor and privilege of sitting down with champion trainer Jay Deas. He is the current trainer of heavyweight WBC title holder Deontay Bronze Bomber Wilder. How you doing, Jay?
Doing good. How's it going?
Okay. If you can give a little bit of insight to your background as a professional trainer, how long you've been in the sport, and some of the fighters that you've actually had the pleasure of training.
Well, my first day in a boxing gym was in 1982, and I trained and boxed amateur. Never boxed professionally because there weren't any pro shows going on. And so when I was 26 years old, I decided that I would put on a show and be a promoter and try to see if I could do it. And it started in '95, and we've been promoting ever since. So we've actually done 80 some odd shows over 23 years. And my brother was the trainer, I was the promoter, and then my brother got out of it and got a raise at his job and an advance in his position. And so I took over the training duties, and when I did, the first person that came in the door was Deontay Wilder in 2005. And we started together in '05 and have been together ever since.
That's outstanding, and that was going to allude to my next question there, Jay. From day one, when Deontay stepped in, did you automatically see, the promise that he had in polishing him to be a world champion someday? Or, did you say, okay, he has the motivation and the tools that we can work with?
Well, there wasn't like a wow moment. He was a tall, thin kid, so, he passed the look test. Of course, he was very old to be starting boxing. We typically get kids starting boxing between 8 and 12, 13 years of age, and here he was close to 20. So there wasn't any thought of this is the next big thing or anything like that. But I noticed a couple of things about him. One was when I showed him how to do something or told him how to do something. Most people, when you're right there next to them, they'll do what you tell them to do when you're coaching them. And then when you walk away, they don't do it quite as well. But he was just as diligent, and if not more diligent, when I walked away, when he just didn't think I was looking, than he was when I was right next to him. And that's very unusual. And then the second kind of moment came when we had him sparring about 3 weeks later, and he was sparring a good journeyman heavyweight, and Deontay knocked the guy down, and the guy got up with a smile on his face and looked at me and said, "Whatever you do," pointed to Deontay and said, "Whatever you do, keep him." And
yes.
I was like, wow, I knew I had something there, but you got to remember, Deontay was kind of all arms and legs and all over the place, and
yes.
He really doesn't get the credit. People think he's just like some phenom that dropped from the sky, but the truth is he put the work in. He really worked harder than everybody else and showed up when nobody else would, and that's the part that he doesn't get the credit for. He was not a phenom. He put the work in to get where he is.
That's outstanding to hear because, whenever you hear about Deontay Wilder, from him being the champion today, you hear size, reach, and strength. Did you know that he had a pretty decent to high ring IQ early on once he completed the Olympics and started to really dial it in and prepare himself for the professional ranks?
Well, it took time. The ring IQ really comes with experience, and that's the thing he didn't really have. He only had 35 amateur fights, 34, 35 total. He made the Olympic team with like 20 fights, which I don't think had ever been done before. And so he was a baby coming up and learning all the time, and his ring IQ just kept getting better and better, where he would see things before they would happen, and he could anticipate what guys were going to do and how he needed to counter that, and it just comes with experience. He can always punch. There's no question about that. But, guys who are great punchers but don't have any other attributes, they do okay, but they ultimately fall short. They never really go all the way. And so we wanted to make sure that Deontay wasn't a guy that just could punch, and that's his one thing. He can do a lot of things well, and so we wanted to make sure that we worked on all those things.
Good point, Jay. As fans, we look at Deontay Wilder, and I look at his style as being awkward. I know I've heard you mention it, his style as being awkward. And as a trainer, training a fighter that has power in both hands, what is something that you work on to keep him really interested now that he's the heavyweight champion? His name is out there. Is it hard to find productive sparring partners for the Bronze Bomber?
No, we keep things interesting because we change things up a lot. We don't do the same routine every day, day in and day out. We change things up, and we have kind of some unusual ways of running our camp. It's not difficult to find sparring partners as long as you have a big enough budget.
Exactly.
But we're able to find really good sparring partners and guys that can help us, solid guys with solid credentials, and that's been a great thing because it's sparring Deontay Wilder is not easy, and he's not the kind of guy that looks at sparring like it's just a slow motion thing. I mean, sparring is real. It's full speed, and those guys are in there banging it out. The only difference between sparring and a fight is that the gloves are a little bigger and you have headgears on. And if you hurt somebody, you don't try to finish them like you would in a real match.
Hey, good point, Jay. Being as you have been around Deontay and seen him from the starting point to where he's basically succeeded to at this stage in his career, what is something about his training that we don't know about? He's always in shape. When he came in versus Luis Ortiz, he was 214, I believe, and Luis Ortiz was 235. So how, as a trainer, is he able to come in there and is such a lightweight and still perform as the heaviest puncher in the heavyweight division and in boxing, period?
Well, the first thing was he would not have been 214 had he not been sick the week before. He had a cold a pretty bad cold the week before fight week, and even though he was over the cold, his strength had not fully returned. So he probably went into the Ortiz fight about 72 to 76%.
Wow.
And his appetite had not really returned. So he weighed in at 214, whereas had he not been sick, he probably would have been 222 to 224, would have been about where he would have come in. So we didn't really want him that light, but it was just one of those things that happened. As far as the things that he does in training that are different, he's always in shape because he's such a high energy guy. He doesn't really do road work. He does more like playing basketball. Is more what he does than road work. And I think in today's world, it's probably, in my opinion, a better way to go. If you're going to send a guy out on a 3-mile steady jog, which really is a good thing, but it doesn't really mimic boxing. Basketball, you've got stops and starts. You're speeding up. You're slowing down. You're having to execute when you're tired. You're constantly having to keep your mental acuity. So 2 hours of basketball would really be much more beneficial to a fighter than a 3-mile jog. So that's what we advocate. In Europe, a lot of their fighters play soccer instead of just doing normal traditional road work. They, the same thing that they do in soccer. You're really not going to get a lot of American kids to play soccer, but you can get them to play basketball. So that's what we do.
Hey, good point, Jay. Yeah, I mean, I did, read about that a while back when Deontay Wilder admitted that he didn't do road work. He didn't like it. And, when you think of professional fighters on his level, they always talking about, as we said in the military, pushing pavement, going out there, getting the miles in, putting the cardio work. Now, at this point, since you've been with him since day one, what has been a determining fight that he had that you actually thought the Bronze Bomber had, caught that body, so to speak? What was that fight that you looked at and you say, wow, this guy's very dangerous. He's the heaviest puncher for real.
Well, when the rematch with Severn, it got very personal, and he was so super focused. He even said that after the fight that it was like he was up in the air watching the fight from above, watching himself.
Oh wow!
That's how out of body he felt that fight, and he was hitting so hard, just in the dressing room and everything. You could hear in the focus that he had. So that was probably the rematch with Severn. That was probably the big one. Severn had been the only person to go the distance with him.
Absolutely.
And Deontay wanted to be able to say he had knocked out every man he had fought. And so getting Severn in the rematch was a way to do that. And he did. He did in spectacular fashion.
And we, the fans, was absolutely elated to, get Severn and Wilder back in the ring. And, he made it clear that he absolutely wanted to rematch Severn, being the only fighter that he went 12 rounds with. If they're saying Deontay Wilder has the least amount of fundamental skills in the heavyweight division, why is he the most avoided fighter in the sport today? What is going on here? I thought this was boxing. Why is he the most avoided? And as his trainer, what plans do you all have to kind of set up his next bout?
Well, he's not the least technically skilled fighter. He is if you look at the first Severn fight, it was a boxing clinic.
Yep.
And you look at the second Severn fight, which is a great thing to look at. If you re-look at it, because it's very quick, you can watch it very quickly. If you watch it, the 1-2, the jab in the right hand that knocks Severn down, that really did all the damage, was as straight and technically correct as you can get. And then once Severn was hurt, Deontay came from those awkward angles and slid his feet over to the right and did those things that are awkward, that that bring punches from all over the place in different angles that Severn couldn't handle. And so he showed both. And I tell people all the time, you look at the Klitschko brothers. Vladimir Klitschko is as technically good as anybody probably ever has been.
Mm-hmm.
Vitaly Klitschko is as awkward and disjointed and all over the place with his style and punches as anybody has ever been. And yet, one of them's in the Hall of Fame and the other will be in the Hall of Fame the day he's eligible.
Yes.
So you're going to have both those guys in the Hall of Fame, one with the most conventional technical skill set and one with a completely unconventional technical skill set. Well, Deontay has both. Deontay can do both those things. He will box you from a very conventional standpoint. If he hurts you, he's going to come from angles you don't expect.
And you know what? Deontay Wilder fans, we see that. When we see awkward and everything, boxing has never had a template. You know what I'm saying? Okay, you go in there and you practice on your 1-2, work off the jab. And the fundamentals, when they look at Anthony Joshua, they say, okay, his fundamentals are there. He's a bit more polished than Deontay. But the tool set that Deontay Wilder has is very surgical. That jab that he has, speaking of the Severn fight, he split Severn guard easily. I mean, when he was throwing those punches, the one thing the fans out here say is that Deontay Wilder is wild looping. But if you look at Severn fight, he split his guard, and he was surgical in landing his jab, followed with the right. I mean, it was powerful. And Deontay has that strength to hit fighters on the glove, and they still go down. And when I asked you about what was the defining fight as far as the most powerful knockout, Spilka, for instance, it was a lot of bad blood between them as they led up to the fight. And he just totally destroyed him with a right, and he had to be carted off in a stretcher. As American fans over here, when do you think that Deontay Wilder would get the credit he deserved as being the guy that has stepped up, who has accepted the challenge, and really making all the sacrifices that you don't see other fighters in the sport of boxing happen to make? So when do you think it's going to happen. Because I know when he initially became world champion, they gave him parade, and it seems like, his brand was building and everything. Why do you feel that he's not wearing that support blanket here in his home soil?
Well, I think it's coming. I mean, it's gotten bigger and bigger, and I think more people are recognizing. I think the Ortiz fight was huge.
Yeah.
Because when Deontay was on his way to the world title, everybody said he can't overcome adversity. What's going to happen when he gets hit? What's going to happen when he has to go rounds? And he proved all that with the Stavern fight, winning the title. And all those questions went away. So that the haters were kind of left with not much else. And then it became, he's not fighting anybody. He won't fight anybody. And even though we were set to go to Russia, to be the first American heavyweight champion to go to Russia to defend his title against Povetkin, we were set to do that. And then that fell apart due to Povetkin. And so those questions persisted, even though we were fighting very good people. It was just a 20/20 hindsight. Things that were a good fight going in, Deontay would dominate, and then people would say, "Oh, well, he didn't fight." But there was no question going into the Ortiz fight that this was a top 3 heavyweight in the world that nobody had beaten, that everybody avoided, and that Deontay wanted to fight him, even though Ortiz had already tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs, and he canceled the first time they fought. Deontay still called him out.
Yeah.
And so that one was probably the one that everybody just shut him up. There's nothing they could say when Deontay took that fight and stopped Ortiz. So a lot of that argument went away. So I think ultimately it's all coming around, and it's all going to be, people are going to realize that Deontay wants to fight the best. He has fought great competition, and he's the one trying to unify. He's the one chased Anthony Joshua into a corner and made him basically say he doesn't want to fight Deontay.
Yep.
So I think it's coming. It's one of those things where people maybe can't believe what they see. If this was 1985 and Deontay was doing this, he would be Mike Tyson. He would be he would be the most unbelievable thing on earth. But I think with today's internet age, people are so skeptical that they just really can't believe that somebody can hit that hard, and he does.
And you made an excellent point with him being in an older generation, being more accepted for his power and the strength that he's carrying, and sit down all his opponents. Which leads me to this, and I'm going to keep it short. I know you've been asked this probably 1,000 times already. Due to recent events with Deontay accepting the flat fee, which was an absolutely preposterous offer to begin with what Hearns had initially said, that the fight potential is easily close to 100 mil or over 100 million. But for Deontay, he has to accept a 12.5 with no potential earnings from anything, which was absolutely a lowball offer. Then turn around, he get the 50 million. And you all stepped up and said, okay, they want the 50 million. Deontay Wilder has made it clear that he wants this fight. We got it. It's in the bag. Then turn around and hear Anthony Joshua say in the media that he's not going to sell his belts for 50 million after he initially made the offer. Now it comes down to the point of hearing that Deontay Wilder has never really signed a contract, or he's never stepped up and did anything to take this fight. So, as his trainer, how do you all sort through all the media deception, the media scrum that's basically trying to toss Deontay Wilder's, who he is as a fighter, kind of dilute what he's actually done as a fighter and stepping up? To be honest, Jay, I've never seen a fighter have to go through these many obstacles on the level that Deontay Wilder is, and his performance reflecting that, and knocking out all his opponents and saying, hey, I want to unify. How do you all deal with that, Jay? How do you keep this fighter motivated on to the next when you read in the media? Because I heard an interview with you recently before the recent news came out of the WBA. How do you keep him focused? I mean, how do you keep him calm, keep him in the gym, to come in the gym for the next opponent if it's not to unify against Anthony Joshua?
Well, it won't be Anthony Joshua because Anthony clearly doesn't want to fight. And
exactly.
Everybody sees that. They know that. Even Steven Espinoza from Showtime Sports, which is a very unprecedented move. He went on Twitter and rebuked Eddie Hearn, and Eddie was saying, this, that, and the other about Deontay. There was never a $50 million offer. There was never this. And Steven Espinoza, the head of Showtime Sports, came out and said, "Wait a minute, fact, there was a contract. Fact, the money was real. Fact, you saw all this. Fact," and he basically rebuked and went off on Eddie Hearn because Eddie lies. I mean, there's no other. I'd like to say it a nicer way, but
I'll speak on it. You're right.
That they never wanted to fight, and they never thought we would accept and continue to accept the things that they were putting out. So when they said they wanted $50 million, they didn't think we could come up with it, and that would be the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we did, and we showed them it was real. Well, then they got a little nervous, like, "Oh, wow." And then they said, "Okay, we don't want that. We want to fight in the UK," not thinking we would accept. And we said, "Yes, we'll fight in the UK." And then they backed up in the corner a little more, and they said, "Okay, we're going to send you a contract." And then like 2 or 3 days went by after they said they were going to send it. They didn't. Then they finally sent it, and the contract had $15 million flat fee, no percentage. They didn't think we would take that, and we said, "We'll take it." And then it said, "There's no date on the contract. There's no venue on the contract."
Wow.
It says that they control all the officials, the judges, the refs, everything. It says there's no rematch clause for Deontay should he lose. There is a rematch clause for Anthony should he lose. Like the one-sided rematch clause. Like all this was in the contract, and they knew we couldn't and wouldn't sign that, but we still were going to sign it. And at that point, they realized, wow, there's nothing we can do to get out of this fight. There is nothing we can do. And that's when, miraculously, the WBA steps in and says, "Oh, you got to fight for Beckman." And you can believe what you want to believe. I find that amazingly coincidental that would just happen like that without, I'm not going to say any more without getting in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But I find it really interesting that the timing that 24 hours after we accepted the most ridiculous contract on earth, all of a sudden they're told they can't do the fight. They don't ask for an extension from the WBA. They don't push forward and say, "Hey, unification trumps a mandatory. We're doing the unification. We're doing the fight everybody wants to see." None of that. They just say, we're sorry, we can't do the fight. So everybody knows that the truth, even though they're still trying to twist the truth a million different ways. The media has come down. The fans have come down on Joshua and Eddie Hearn, and they should.
Hey, there you go, boxing fans. Hey, you heard it straight from Jay Deas. I hope this clears up a lot of misconceptions or those who want to, turn around the truth. There you heard it from the champion trainer that's in the presence of Deontay Wilder and dealing with him on a regular basis. When we, the boxing fans, are reading this media and we're hearing that, we know for a fact, we're hearing from Deontay Wilder's mouth that he's willing to step up and take the smaller rewards early to reap the larger ones later on. He's always made that point to say, "Okay, I'll make the sacrifice. That's what I'll do. I'll fight for the small change, and then I know within myself I'm going to go over there and knock this guy out. And once I unify the division, then I'll reap the rewards." And you know what, Jay? We the boxing fans that support Deontay Wilder, we understand, we hear it, and here at World Combat Sports, thank you for actually enlightening us and clarifying all the media hoopla that we read each and every day. I just have one more question before we get up out of here. Now that fight is finally off the board, off the table, who should we expect Deontay Wilder, the Bronze Bomber, to step in the ring with next? Who might be his next fight potential?
Well, I mean, we've got a mandatory with Dominic Brazil, and Deontay has a history with Brazil where they've certainly had altercations in words. That may be a possibility. I just heard Tyson Fury call Deontay out, so we're certainly going to be in touch with their people and see how real they are about it. So there's probably 3 or 4 ways we could go, and we should know all of this pretty soon. The last thing I'll say about Joshua, which I think would resonate maybe with everybody that's listening, is there are 7.442 billion people on Earth, and every single one of them would fight for $50 million, except for the one that we were trying to get in the ring.
Wow. That is an incredible summation right there, because if you have that many people, I mean, that just goes to show you how much power Deontay Wilder has, not just in his hands, but influence on the sport of boxing, period. It's just incredible. I've never seen a fighter this avoided and so many obstacles placed in front of him when he's checking the box saying, I'm willing to go there. Okay, you won't be in a fight in the UK?
That's right.
We're good. We will go there. What next? What do you want next? We'll fight in the UK. And I remember when Deontay Wilder said, okay, we sent the contract over. And if I'm right, he said, okay, we accept the $50 million. The fight would be in Vegas by the end of the year with no rematch clause. I might be a little off on that. But, I'm not sure what fans are looking for in the boxing community. Why Deontay Wilder cannot get that halo, that U.S. halo, as a heavyweight champion. He is a guy who's doing all the right things. He's a clean fighter. His competition has chose to somewhat enhance their performance just to step in the ring with him. And he has made the sacrifices.
Yeah, 3 different times. Three different times we've had fights canceled due to somebody testing positive. So that tells you right there that what goes through these guys' minds when they hear they're fighting Deontay.
3 times, people. I mean, boxing fans, you heard it. 3 times, his opponents have taken food off his plate, and he had to either revisit.
That's Povetkin, Vacic, and what's his name?
Luis Ortiz.
Ortiz the first time.
And he actually explained to Luis Ortiz that he was providing him a second chance. So that fight in itself. Okay.
Go ahead, I can hear you.
Yeah, mentioning those, I'm glad you mentioned those fighters who actually Deontay Wilder wasn't able to fight in the ring due to popping or pissing hot, as they or performance enhancing drugs. You got to give a salute to champion trainer Jay Deas and his team, and Deontay Wilder, who is a clean fighter. He's done everything right as a heavyweight champion. Hey Jay, we look forward to seeing you all in the ring once again, whether it be Dominic Brazil. I know that Tyson Fury is trying to come back into the picture now that he's on board, but I would like to see the Dominic Brazil or him against Tyson Fury. Either way, he is the hardest hitting. He is the most dominant fighter of this era. We look forward to seeing y'all get back in the ring and knocking out another opponent. And when he gets down, just let him know there are boxing fans out here that truly and totally support the world champion Deontay Bronze Bomber Wilder. If you have any last words you want to tell the boxing fans?
Just basically thank you for the support. Like you said, Deontay has been tested since he was an amateur. He's always tested clean. He believes in clean boxing, and he's looking for the biggest fights and the biggest opportunities. And I think that hopefully we're going to get some great opportunities real soon. And thank you guys for the support.
Hey, and salute to Jay Deas and team Deontay Wilder. And I totally thank you for dropping by and giving me this opportunity. And you all have a nice one, Jay.
Thank you so much.
All right, much appreciated.